Tonight, the big story is about a riot that Portland police never actually declared as a riot. Let's look at some video. Not this one. These pictures were from last night after an anti-police march at Woodlawn Park. Police eventually declared this one a riot after officers say members of the group started throwing fireworks and rocks and balloons filled with paint and other stuff. 23 people were arrested after this one. We got some more video here? No, not this one either. Police declared this one a riot too, shortly before midnight Saturday for very similar reasons. This was at the Penumbra Kelly building on East Burnside. Officers say they saw people throwing rocks and bottles at officers, and at this occasion, 14 people were arrested. No, both of those anti-police protests on Saturday and Sunday night were eventually declared riots by Portland police. Now, this one on Saturday afternoon, though, was not.
Dueling protests turned violent in downtown Portland. Many of the right-wing protesters were clearly armed. That's a known far-right activist from Texas pointing a gun at the crowd. Portland police were, for the most part, nowhere to be found.
Seemed a little rioty to me. That was earlier Saturday afternoon. Alt-right protesters and Proud Boys squaring off with Antifa and other left-wing protesters in front of the Justice Center and federal courthouse. Now, some of them, as you saw in the video, at least one person showed a gun. Others had melee weapons and bear spray. Yet, still no riot and not a single arrest. Of course, up until then, Portland police hadn't exactly been shy about mixing it up with protesters, have they? I mean, we can dig back into our archives from the past 3 months, go ahead and drop our finger on a random date on the calendar and find examples of the stuff you're looking at here. Portland police in riot gear facing off against protesters, sometimes throwing tear gas into the crowd, bull rushing rioters, and using all sorts of impact weapons to clear those streets. And the reason they almost always provide for deploying those types of crowd control tactics are demonstrators who were throwing some kind of projectile at officers. So let's keep that in mind. To be fair, Saturday afternoon's dueling protest was different. Demonstrators weren't targeting police. They were targeting each other. But still, the question stands. Why didn't police declare a riot, even though they did say it met the criteria for doing so? And we know this because they told us. They put out a statement on Saturday and said, while the activity in the group met the definition of a riot, PPB did not declare one because there were not adequate police resources available to address such a declaration. PPB had roughly 30 officers available for crowd management, and there were several hundred individuals associated with the events downtown. And they questioned whether police should interject in fights that were, and I'm going to use their words here, between two groups with individuals who appear to be willingly engaging in physical confrontations for short durations. Now, our Pat Doris talked to PSU sociologist Randy Blazak about this, and Blazak said he's worried about the message the police, their non-intervention, what this sends to the public.
The concern is that sends a message that the police have a vested interest in the racist history of policing and are resistant to change, which is only going to bring the protesters out in force.
Couldn't it also be possible, though, that they really are just exhausted and low on numbers, and there was nobody else to call?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a completely reasonable assumption given how long these protests have been going on.
Right. Now, regardless of what message it sends, it does sound like police were willing to let these two groups fight amongst themselves without any police resistance because I guess the fight was consensual, I guess. But now, police didn't make any arrests. Let's make that point again. And they did not use any crowd control measures. In fact, federal officers were the ones who came in and cleared that area on Saturday afternoon. But let's fast forward to the anti-police protests Saturday and Sunday nights. We showed you a little bit of this off the top. Portland police had those ones fully staffed, and for obvious reasons. We've been seeing these night after night after night for, about 80 plus now. So they had more than enough resources to declare these riots, use various crowd control munitions, and make a couple dozen arrests.